50,000 years ago, in a cave in northern Spain, a young man was in serious pain. He had an abscess in his jaw, the kind of dental infection that throbs in time with your heartbeat and makes it impossible to think about anything else. He also had a parasite living in his gut, and we know what he did about it, because it is still stuck to his teeth. He chewed poplar bark. Poplar contains salicylic acid, which is the natural basis of aspirin. The active ingredient in the painkiller sitting in your cupboard right now was being used deliberately for pain by a Neanderthal 500 centuries ago. He almost certainly didn't work that out himself. Somebody in his group knew which tree to strip, and when, and for what. Somebody held that knowledge. Some of the oldest jobs in the world were never about stone, or hide, or fiber. They were about the things you cannot hold in your hand: pain, sickness, blood, birth. The moments when a body fails, and everything depends on one person in the group knowing exactly what to do. Today, I want to introduce you to two of them. Neither of them left behind a tool you could put in a museum case. Both of them are the reason you exist. Part 1. The Healer. The cave is called El Cidrón, and it holds the remains of a group of Neanderthals who died around 50,000 years ago. The breakthrough came from an unlikely place: the hardened plaque on their teeth. Dental calculus, the same stuff your dentist scrapes off. It fossilizes beautifully, and it traps microscopic residues of whatever passed through the mouth. Researchers went looking for diet. What they found was chemistry. Trapped in that ancient plaque were traces of the plants these individuals had been chewing, and some of those plants were not food. One of them was yarrow, another was chamomile. Both are intensely bitter. Both have essentially no nutritional value. Nobody chews yarrow for pleasure. There is exactly one reason a human being has ever put yarrow in their mouth: because it does something to the body. That's not diet, that's medicine. And they were taking it 50,000 years ago. Then there's the young man with the abscess on his teeth, the poplar, and alongside it, something else: penicillium mold, the source of penicillin. Now, I have to be careful here, because this is where it's tempting to overclaim. We cannot prove he understood that mold as an antibiotic the way a modern doctor would. Nobody was running trials. But look at what we can say. He was in pain, and he was consuming a natural painkiller. He was fighting an infection, and he was consuming a mold with antibiotic properties. And out of the thousands of plants in that landscape, he had somehow arrived at these specific, bitter, useless-looking ones. That knowledge came from somewhere. Which plant for pain? Which for the gut? Which one stops a wound going bad? Which one looks almost identical to the one that will kill you? That is a body of learning, built up across generations, tested on real bodies with real consequences, remembered precisely, and passed down by voice alone. A pharmacy with no shelves and no labels, held entirely inside one person's memory. The healer didn't write anything down. The healer was the prescription. Part 2. The midwife. The second job may be the oldest of them all, and it exists because of a problem we created for ourselves the moment we stood up. When our ancestors began walking upright, the pelvis had to narrow and reshape to carry weight efficiently over two legs. That's a hard engineering constraint. The birth canal could only ever be so wide. And then, over the following couple of million years, the other thing happened. The human brain, and therefore the human head, ballooned. So we ended up as a species that has to push an enormous head through a passage that was deliberately narrowed for walking. Researchers call it the Obstetrical Dilemma, and the result is that human birth is uniquely, genuinely dangerous. Here's the part most people don't know. In almost every other mammal, the young emerges facing the mother. She can reach down herself, clear its airway, help it, free it. The human baby, because of the tight spiral it has to rotate through to fit, almost always emerges facing away from her, so she cannot easily help it without risking injuring it, which means that, more than almost any other animal on this planet, a human being giving birth needs somebody else there, a second pair of hands, a helper, and that helper is not a modern invention. The need for her is written into our anatomy, and our anatomy is millions of years old. So somewhere in deep prehistory, there was a woman who was simply good at this. We will never find her grave. Her skill left no object behind, no blade, no carving, nothing to bury her with, but she existed in every group, in every generation, for longer than our species has had language. She had been present at more births than anyone else around her. She knew what a normal labor looked like, which meant she could feel when one was going wrong. She knew how to turn a baby, what to do with the cord, what to do in the terrifying minutes afterwards, when the room goes quiet and everyone looks at her. Every single person watching this exists because, generation after generation after generation, that woman was in the room. In the most literal sense available, the midwife may be the oldest profession in the world, not a job created by surplus or status, a role demanded by the shape of our own bodies, older than farming, older than art, very possibly older than speech. Two people, neither of them made anything. The healer's entire pharmacy was a memory, a catalog of bitter plants and what each one does, refined over generations by people who paid for their mistakes in blood. The midwife's entire toolkit was a pair of hands and the experience of having done it before. That is why they're so easy to overlook. Our picture of the deep past is built almost entirely out of hard objects, because hard objects are what survive. A stone blade lasts 50,000 years. Knowing which bark stops the pain lasts exactly as long as the person holding it. But look at what we do have. Aspirin in the plaque on a Neanderthal's teeth, and the need for the midwife written permanently into the shape of our own hips. We like to imagine that before medicine, people simply suffered and endured and died. The evidence says something else entirely. It says that when a body failed, somebody in that group knew what to do about it, and had known for a very long time. They just kept the knowledge somewhere we never think to look for it. Not in a tool, in a person. If you liked this video, like and subscribe.